What is your name? When did you take the ComIT course and where are you working?
My name is Ivan, and I took a ComIT course in Java, 3-month course in 2018 in spring, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, that's awesome. So where are you working now?
So currently I work as my official title is data management specialist, but I work as a software developer at the Canadian Energy Regulator in Calgary. Although currently, because of this situation with the COVID, I'm working remotely from BC.
Awesome. I know a lot of people are kind of working remotely as a result of COVID. So it's kind of becoming a little bit of a new normal that, we're video calls and things like that.
Yeah.
So did you have any previous IT experience before taking the ComIT course?
Yes and no. So I was working as a project manager. So I was working with those technologies. I was working with software developers, but I did not code. Like I had no experience in coding. Although sometime before the ComIT course, I started learning coding by my own.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I went through a free code camp and was like researching as much as I can. And interesting enough, when I was researching, I found ComIT course, and I really wanted to get into it, and I didn't know if I can actually. And then at my job, we had I was working in the creative agency, and they had a major like downsizing, like almost 20% of their workforce was downsized, and I was among those people who were downsized at that moment. And coincidentally, at the same moment, like the ComIT course was there, and one of the questions there was, "Hey, like, are you experiencing problems with jobs and stuff?" And I'm like, "Hey, I'm like unemployed now, so yes." And I applied, and I got into the course, and it was a great decision. It was fantastic decision because it's very hard to learn programming all by yourself. You're coming through like a land of unknown, and it's interesting that when you learn one thing, you uncover a lot of other stuff that is also completely unknown, and you have to go. It's like a tree where you're like traversing it and learning this and this and this. And one of the things I remember was the frustration of sometimes I had some question that now I understand that any like experienced developer could answer in 1 minute, but for me sometimes it was taking hours or days of searching. It was like super frustrating. But I didn't know any other developers. I didn't know like where to ask. Like sometimes I was trying to post questions on the internet, but sometimes someone would answer, but sometimes nobody would answer ever, and that was super frustrating. So I was like thinking, hey, I need access to someone like who can answer a question if I have, and ComIT was very helpful at that moment.
Awesome. So you kind of answered my next question, but I'm curious if maybe you have some other experiences that you want to share. So did you have any previous Canadian experience, maybe say volunteering or education? So I hear that you've got your work experience in Canada. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I came to Canada to study at the University of Winnipeg on the project management diploma. Before that, in Ukraine, I was working in some project support roles, but I thought, hey, I want to grow, so I want to be a project manager. So I finished that course, and 2 months after, I found a job at this creative agency, and I was able to get a position of a project manager and overseeing work of several developers and coordinating their jobs, like talking to clients and so on. But this was like not a technical job. I wasn't doing any coding at all at that moment. Yeah, and after that, yeah, it was like a downsizing of the company, And I feel like almost that it was a great thing that was happening, because at that moment of time I realized, hey, I don't want to look for another another project management jobs. Like I just don't want to do this. I was learning like a little bit of programming by that time, but as soon as I realized that, hey, all I actually need is time, and I think every developer, every like beginner developer would recognize this feeling when you learn like a little bit, when you're just starting, you're like poking around and thinking, hey, can I do this? Then you're like getting like sucked into that like more and more. You start and then you've got this understanding, then, hey, this was like a terra incognita for me, but now I know that there is like the databases stuff, this stuff. I have no idea how to do this, but I know one thing, that I can do this, but all I need is time. And the time was a crucial component, because when I was working, what was happening is, with my wife, we had an agreement that, and this is very important because I had her full support because of our future. We agreed that she would take over all of the responsibilities on the house, and I would do like nothing except coding. So when I was coming home at 5 p.m., instead of like watching a TV or watching a movie or whatever, I was just dropping my stuff. I was standing in front of my computer, like I was sitting, and I was coding, and only this drive, I feel it allowed me to find a job in the end, and to learn this to the level where I can actually apply it. I can do something meaningful with this.
Definitely. So that's awesome. I love hearing kind of, where you started, and then, that it wasn't IT related, but you had some kind of desire to kind of change into that field. So I'm curious then too, you had this desire, you had this time. How was your job search during and after the ComIT course, and what did you do to find your job in IT?
It's interesting, but I just want to go back a little bit to the desire part, because I didn't mention this. But before, it's interesting that for different people like coming to the IT field, it come like their road to IT is always different. But for me, it was for a month. I was reading just success stories of people, and I was like, hey, this guy, he was a librarian, became a programmer. Or this girl, she decided not to go to university because she started learning coding, and she got a job and everything, and her parents didn't support, of course, that. They like, hey, got a university education, and then do whatever you want, but just get it. And everything else, and it just started to creep in, because I feel like this is one of the most important things, because if you do not believe you can, if you do not motivate yourself, this is not possible to do. This is absolutely not possible. But if you feel like you like, hey, I think I can, this is what needs to start. But coming back to a question of job search, and a job search for me was, I feel like I made one mistake that I don't want anyone to do. And it's actually widely available on the internet. If you read those hey, 10 steps to get the first job in IT or blah blah blah, all of them are talking about this thing. But I just want to stress that this is super important. I constantly delayed applying for jobs, thinking, oh, I need to learn this, and after this, or no, and now I need to learn this. And I felt hey, I'm not ready. Those guys, those developers, they're wow, they're super brains, and I'm nobody. So I have to learn a little bit and a little bit. And the longer you delay it, the harder it becomes for you to apply, because A, it chips off from your confidence, and B, the big secret of learning programming is actually its application, because it's not an art, it's not a science, it's a practical thing. So when you get something to work on, you learn 10 times faster. And I know it's on my own experience that learning okay, let's do another, I don't know, to-do list in JavaScript. Okay, let's do this. And you're doing, and it's like, it sucks sometimes because it doesn't motivate you. But when you're doing some work and you know that it's meaningful, that it's for some people, well, I'm even like putting outside that you have a deadline and boss who wants it and so on. But the whole idea, like, and this is one of the big perks of programming, is that it's actually very rewarding work. When you've done something, when it works, you want to dance. You want to like, hey, like, wow, I did it. It's awesome. And especially if it's something that you haven't done before, like it's twice as rewarding. So I was like thinking about this, and it's like, you know, some people are they like to play video games, and I was like an avid like video game player, and I know this feeling, this dopamine shots in your brain when you've done something. But here, like in programming, it's 10 times better because you've done something, but it's useful to other people, and hey, you're even paid for it. Like, wow, this is awesome. So like big thing, long story short, like do not delay applying for jobs. If you know how to do some CRUD apps, if you've like finished your course, like two things needs to happen. You need to continue programming. Like many people who were finishing the course and who I knew, like those who were successful, they had on average one thing that was different from those people who didn't have success in finding a job. They were continuing to program. They were doing this even if there is no course. They were connecting to other people who finished the course, so they just continued doing this. Because the moment you stop doing this, you begin to forget it a little bit. And this process, like it's super fast. Like it will happen in no time for you. You will forget how to do this. And vice versa, if you're doing this, you're reinforcing it, and you're having more and more confidence. And the less and less you do it, you have less confidence, and and the employers, they can sense it right away, because when they're hiring you, like you cannot fool anyone. You are a beginner, like you are hired as a beginner. They know that you haven't worked before, unless of course you're lying on your resume, which I do not advise to do, of course. But they know that so why they're hiring you? They're hiring you because of your potential, and they will need to see it. Whether hey, like, did you work with this? No, but I can learn it, and here is how I will do it. Or if they ask another person, hey, did you work with it? Well, no, I didn't work with it, so I guess I'm not like a good fit, and so on. Like this, like subtle thing in attitude, like it makes miracles. But like one of the most important things is to apply. Like apply, and no matter on which stage you are on, like, oh, they called me for interview or whatever, you still, like, you pretend that there is nothing happening, that you still apply, because every time, like, a big mistake can be where you applied for something and then you're talking to them and you feel, hey, it might actually work out, and you need to not do, and when it doesn't work out, and you have to be prepared. Like, this is a like tough market. Like it's not like someone has a job like right away to you. Like you have to find it. Like you have a huge blow to your like self-esteem and everything, and at that moment you need to be like resilient, and you need to continue, because like many things, like it's on the emotional side. You have to like keep the blow, like they rejected you, okay, I'm continuing. But also there is this like objective side. There is this reality of, hey, developers, everyone needs developers. The market is red hot, and it makes sense for companies to hire like junior developers together with senior developers, because one senior developer can manage 3 other juniors and produce like 3 times results, as opposed to hiring 2 senior developers, which will be like more expensive and produce only twice the result, right? So this math, it still applies. But again, like nobody has time to nurse you. Nobody has time to you have to be self-starter. You have to be a person that they know that hey, you don't know something, but he will figure it out like sooner or later. And if they know that you will like stay up late in like learning and doing all of that stuff to do it, they will feel it. But they will feel it only if you have it. You cannot like pretend that you have it, right? So like this is like the step 2. Like first, like don't wait to apply. Second, apply everywhere, and also apply even for jobs where you're not like really qualified. And why I'm saying this is because like it's not a secret in the IT world that the hiring of developers is kind of like broken everywhere, just because people who are hiring developers, usually it's people who have no experience in IT, so they're like approaching it a little bit too mechanically. And second thing is usually when the people who are hiring are talking to, I don't know, some technical people, and technical people are saying, hey, we need like React, Node, Java, C#, blah, 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 and they're saying like all those things, then all of those things are appearing on this like advertisement, right? But it doesn't mean that they need all of it. Like if you know some of the stuff and you can learn some other stuff, it means that you can do it. And because even your instructor, even my instructor, even like myself, like working as a developer, I know that nobody can know everything. You have to learn stuff constantly, like, and it's the reality. Like if you ask like a senior developer some like tricky question, he will not answer right away probably, but he will go away, he will research it. It will just take him like way less time than you to search for it. It can be like 5-minute search for him to answer it, but 2 hours for you, right? But he doesn't know everything, and nobody is expecting you to know everything. And so when you see some technologies, like it's good if you know them, but if you don't, like, but you have this like power to, hey, I will stay like late until I do this, like, and I will do this every day. With time, it gets like easier and easier, but also it gives you this, peace of mind that that I know that I will learn it. Like it will take a lot of time. Maybe I'm a slow reader or whatever. And another thing is like when they're saying like, hey, I need like 15 years of React experience or something. Well, React is only since 2014 around, right? But they need 15 years, which is like a joke, but it's a reality. Well, that's all. That's a company wishes. That's the best possible candidate they want. But sometimes what can happen is, hey, like someone who needs help, like a developer, is saying, hey, we need like another developer like ASAP, and they will gather all of the resumes, and one of those resumes can be yours, and they can see, hey, like we need like this and this and this. They will take what they have just because they need to fill this position. And I know like at least 2 people who were hired on that basis. They didn't have enough experience, but they were hired because they were they were like standing out more. And they're like, hey, let's try it because we just need help right now. We have no time. So you can like slip between the cracks like easily. If it's 2 to 3 years of experience required, it's absolutely like apply 100%. Because you never know like how it will work. Because for me, like I had 0 years of experience, and the ad, if I'm not mistaken, it was like it was not stating years explicitly, but it was like experience with this technology, and I just applied. And also, well, it's a giant topic. We can continue. Do we have more time to talk about this? Or?
We have all the time. So if you want to kind of share more things that you'd recommend to current ComIT students, with job search, with projects, resumes, because you mentioned a good point too. You mentioned a lot of good points really, about being resilient and being passionate and letting that show through. But you did mention a piece that I'm kind of curious on. So you said that there were 2 resumes that stuck out a little bit more than the others. What do you think would make a resume stick out for employers to consider those resumes over others?
It's a tough question. I feel like on every ComIT course there is an HR from some of the companies that is common in discussion. I feel like they can give you more, but I feel like it's even less the factual information and more what's the vibe coming from this resume and the cover letter. Like some people, they're just thinking, hey, I will send like my resume to 100 companies and someone will answer. Nope, not gonna happen. Like you have to do your due diligence. You have to research the company. You have to put like some effort in it. And some people, they're overestimating this effort. It's not that much, but you need to know like, hey, like what's happening in this company? What do they need? And so on. So you write a cover letter, and I strongly recommend like for every position you apply, like, do not apply for 100 positions. Apply to 10 positions, but for all 10, you have like to prepare like immaculate resume. It has to be short. It has to be to the point. It has to be to Canadian standards, because I've seen my share of like the ugliest like resumes I've ever seen. Like, and people are saying, hey, this is how I always do this. Like, well, that's not the point. Now you're in Canada, and you, especially like I'm talking about the fresh immigrants, like you have to do this according to standards, because it's not about like people being like racist or whatever. They just see something that they don't understand, or it's not to their like usual thing, and they just toss it. Because the reality is the resumes, people are looking at them on average 17 seconds. If they do not see like what they need on that resume, then don't put it there. And also like be a little bit more like, don't be too modest like on the resume. That's one of the things that I would say. If you've built a CRUD app, like if it's a to-do list in a browser with Node.js and MySQL and like React, like say, hey, experience in React, MySQL, and Node.js. Do not say something like, hey, a little bit of experience, or I have like beginner experience, or sometimes they put like those, 5 dots and like, and they fill them in according to level of, like, don't do that. Like, your idea here is to get a job. Like, if you put there that you work, like if you wrote like one line of code in Node.js, you've used this technology and you need to put it on your resume. When they want to interview you, they will ask you questions. They will say, hey, how did you do this, or how did you do that? Or in other like version, it would be, they would ask you, how do you do this in Node, or how do you do this in React, and so on, to test your level. But this is not up to like, this is not required on a resume. Resume has to be like, it should stay like, I can do attitude. Like, if you work with it, just put it there and don't undermine yourself. Never, ever. Okay, so one of the important pieces of interviews, and many people are dreading it, but it's actually like a lot of fun, if you like, depending on how you approach it, is the technical interview. So, and interesting enough that like people are, like some companies, they require it, some companies are not requiring this, but it's generally, it's a very good idea to be preparing to one of those. Just because like if you encounter it, like usually the tasks that they do, and you're given some kind of problem, right, to work on, and you have to solve it. It's never something like very, very hardcore, or something like, hey, created like B-tree, search, sort, whatever, like super complex. No, because they know that they need to test you like for like half an hour and understand. And here is where like many people, they get it wrong, and they think, oh, I have to like finish this exercise. I need to solve this problem, otherwise I'm not hired. This is not what is tested. Usually what they want is, they want to understand how you think. Because if they give you a problem that you don't know how to solve, they want to see, oh, I will try this, or I will try that, and you are verbally like saying to them how you would approach it. And even if by the end of the interview you didn't solve it, but they've seen the potential, then you might get a job. And I can tell it because like the job that I was getting at, like they were hiring not 1 but 4 different developers. And I was talking to other developers, And at least one of them told me that I'm like, hey, what did you have on your technical interview? And he's like, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to like tell what it was, and who was it. But the idea is that, and I'm like, hey, I had the same thing. How did you solve it? And blah, 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 blah. And he like, I actually didn't solve it. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. How come you didn't solve it? And he's like, well, I tried like this approach and this approach. It just ran out of time and so on. So I didn't solve it. And he still got a job. So, but like the point here is that the technical interview, you can prepare it for it. There are so many websites like HackerRank or Code Wars or like numerous other ones, and you can just go there. You can find like work on the easiest ones, because those are most probably will be on an interview. Nobody will like, do not be afraid that they have like implement merge sort with blah 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 and complexity and like with zero space. No, that's not gonna happen unless of course you want to work in Google and you apply to some like those like big companies, right? In like normal companies, they just want to see, because so many developers, even experienced one developers, when they're given like a task, they feel like pressure, they feel like stressed, and sometimes they cannot do like a simple task like reversing a string. Like you have a string and you need to reverse it without using some like built-in functions. You just need to convert it to an array and then do it. And I'm not joking, but this is happening on interviews, especially when they're not like hiring for senior developers. They just want to see how you approach it and what routes will you take and so on, so on, so on. So it's a good idea to invest some time. And also like it's a lot of fun because you're solving problems. And when it's like a little bit out of your comfort level, you feel like those endorphins even more, because it's like pure joy of programming when you're training for this. But also you're getting your ability to solve those problems. And interesting enough, one of those problems that you solve like in the comfort of your home, they can like come to your what's the name of it, to technical interview. And at that moment, you know exactly how to solve it. And this is not a luck. Like never ever call it luck. It was your hard work, spending tens or hundreds of hours. For me, it was like I spent like hundreds of hours on those websites. It's when you get this thing and you know exactly how to solve it. And this is where you get the job, right? So when I was applying on my last job, I've got a problem that I encountered before. I did not remember like the exact, like, because it was like a little bit on the higher end, on the higher side of the things. It was on the like a little bit more complex. So I didn't remember like exact thing, but I was like kind of confident that I will solve it because I got this problem before. And I solved like 500 of those problems. So it's not luck, it was like hard work which worked out. So this was the first job that I was applying for, and I got it. And some may think, oh, but this is like a cheating or whatever. But like thinking about this, what cheating is this if I put 500 like hours into working on those problems, I became better developer, and I know that I can contribute to this company, to this organization, and do whatever is needed. It's not cheating. It's exactly what they're testing, right?
Yeah, and it's just a real test too of just all the hard work, the dedication, the persistence, and the time that you've put into learning. The ComIT course, gave you kind of those skills, but you had all of those other traits because you wanted to change, you wanted to learn, you wanted to grow, and you put the time in. And I think that's wonderful to be able to hear your story and all the advice too. So kind of, I love it, to be able to hear exactly, all the things you've done and the mistakes you made and the things that worked. And I love, that you also mentioned how much time you put into this, because I think the misconception comes that it'll come easily, but I know that it's definitely something you have to continue to work at. And I think it's really awesome that, you had a really supportive team and wife that was able to, let you just take that time and learn because you knew you were going to do something with that. So
But like it's interesting that in retrospective, like it sounds like that, but also it was hard. I had my dark moments. I had my fair share of days where I was depressed and I was thinking, hey, because at some moment of time, it's like knowledge brings you like sadness, like where the simple-minded people, they're happier. It's because when you learn a lot, you figure out that this IT world is so big and there is so much to learn that you will never learn it, that you will never make it, that you will not get a job. You're not a developer. Like so the imposter syndrome is a widely, like if you research it on the internet, like in IT people, even for senior developers, it's often a big case because it's happening to everyone. Like you will have your dark moments, and this is where if you do not drop it, if you continue to work, even in those days, that's where you'll get a success. I know this sounds like so, I don't know, what's the word for it? It sounds not banality, but it's like, but it's proverbial that you have to tough through like the problems and so on. But also like at some moment of time, you will feel that, oh, I know like enough to know a little bit about everything. So you know that, hey, it's just a matter of time. I know how to do this, or I know how to do that, and so on. It will come to place. So you will have like more and more of confidence. But also you mentioned the great thing about like the project. So it's like two pillars of your software developer expertise that will come into play when you apply for jobs. Because one of them will be like technical interview, which you might have or might not have. And by the way, I mentioned like reversing a string. And this was like one of my friends who was getting also into the development. He got this on an interview. And interesting enough, not all developers were able to do this. So if you know how to do this, and this is very simple, like if you're like into this stuff, it's like super basic algorithm, then you are on top of like a lot of people, in your chances to do. But the second part are the projects. And this is where like it's very important to have something that you are working on and you're constantly refining, or you're doing like some other projects. Because one of the like very, very like slippery slope for your development career is to rely a lot on tutorials. I've seen it over and over again, and I was falling the victim to it like from time to time. But the idea is that you're doing a tutorial, and basically all tutorials are the same. Someone is doing something, he's explaining you something, and he's doing some project, and you're following along. And you are feeling, hey, like I'm doing something very, very useful. But then the course ends, and you're like, hey, how do I actually how do I start? How do I do? So very important thing is, I'm not like demanding like the it's important to take those courses. And I'm taking courses on Udemy. I have a job now, like I have full-time job, but I'm still taking those courses all the time, at least one of them in progress at any moment of time. But after every project, you have to do something based on this project. If you didn't, if you continue to the next project, you're entering this tutorial hell, which is like a cycle of you're doing. And you're creating like you feel like, hey, I'm doing something, but you're not really learning, because it's a practical thing. Like this is why you can get a job without formal education. It's because you can do stuff. And the only way to do stuff is to this tautology, but to do stuff, right? So that's why I'm saying like, hey, do not stop coding after you finish ComIT. Like, do not, just continue and do it more and more and more and more. Do not, we're coming like also into interesting topic. It's a little bit controversial, but my stand on it, that in order to get something, you got to do some sacrifices. There is no other way. Like nobody will give you a job. Nobody will. You can take it. You can earn it. But the only way to do this is when, hey, like, I will not watch TV, or it's summer, I will not go to a lake or whatever. I will sit home and I will work. And like, this is the second time I'm doing this. And interesting enough, before that, it was when I came to Canada, and I was studying at the University of Winnipeg. But obviously, like, all of the international students, they're coming not only for getting like they're like for learning, but also they want to get a PR. They want to stay here. And I remember this feeling where I was learning like English, and preparing for an IELTS exam to go through express entry and to get PR during the school time. So everyone else were like, it was summer, everyone was going to lake, and they were posting like on Instagram, and they were like enjoying their time. And I was like, and I'm grinding, like doing, and it's frustrating because, it's like it's like you're a schoolboy, like you're doing your chores when everyone else having fun. But then I was the first person to get my PR even before the end of the like learning, even before I finished the university. And I remember that thing, that when I got a PR and everyone was amazed, like, hey, how did you do it? And I'm like, I know, I was super grumpy at the moment, like, yeah, it was when you were going to lake, that's when I was studying, and so that's why I was getting it. So but I remember that feeling, and it's the same feeling here. You've got to make a sacrifice. Because there is a lot to learn. Like, in order to learn programming, like, the ComIT course is not enough. It's giving you basics, and it gives you the direction. It gives you access to a senior developer who can like answer your questions and make it faster, because you have something that like other people who are learning, they have to research it for days for something that you can have access to like only 5 minutes, and you can be like you can get the answer from your instructor, right? But you have to put time. Like, it's like, prepare for the long haul. Like, it's a long haul. It's months. Maybe it's a year. Maybe it's 2 years. But you have to like do it every day, like at least a little bit. So there are some things that can help you. There is this like Twitter challenge of 100 days of code, and it's when you every day you post like, hey, I learned this today, or next day, and you do not skip every day. And because it's public, because everyone see it, like it creates a commitment for you, and you cannot like not do it, and you cannot fake it. Like, who are you like trying to fool, right? Yourself, like, although it's the easiest person to fool, it's yourself, right? But yeah, and do it every day, like, even if it's a little bit, like, and it doesn't have to be programming every day. If you read an article in programming, or you've done this, because it's hard to learn programming. It's kind of it's not like firmly shaped. It's like nebulous thing where you have to have a little bit of theory, a little bit of that, and so on and so on. So yeah.
Awesome. Ivan, thank you so much for all of the advice you've given. Your story is amazing, and all of your advice with, everything from the dedication aspect to the routine and the accountability and holding yourself accountable is really awesome. And to hear from somebody like yourself who's had an amazing story of just hard work, and that it's the same theme, is that if you work hard and you hold yourself accountable, that good things will happen. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
I forgot like one last thing. Like, if you feel like, if you really want to increase your chances, so what I did once in the there is a JavaScript meetup in Winnipeg, and once I came and presented on D3.js, the library, because I've done some work like on Free Code Camp, and I just wanted to share it with everyone. And it was the biggest embarrassment of my life. Like, it was, like, it's a room full of developers, like more than half of them, they're like senior developers, they know their stuff, and here I come, like, I didn't know like JavaScript well, and I didn't like, I was like, it was a huge case of what's the name of it? The Imposter Syndrome. But still, I did it, and it, like nobody said, hey, this is like complete like garbage or whatever. They're like, hey, thank you for sharing this, and they gave me advice on how to improve, like, and stuff like this, because like stuff like this gets you exposure. Stuff like this gets you the ability to show to some other people, and when they're looking for someone to hire, and they're like, yeah, it's a big topic. The networking is a separate topic, but at the same time, like it's easy to do. Like it's not something that is very hard, and it's completely depends on you. If you go somewhere where other developers are, if you're going to some like technical meetups and so on, like you're increasing your chances a lot, and you're finding like people who are working in the same, like who have the same mind, and you can even, who knows, you can find a job. Like I didn't find a job like this route, but I know for sure that if I would follow up like to the very end, that could probably happen outside of the whole applications and the resumes and stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really great advice. It's everything from, resumes to the networking to getting out there, and great stuff. Awesome. Thank you again so much for sharing all of your advice and your story, Ivan.
Thank you so much for having me.